Morgan Smith. We got Billy Lavender and Jay Davis. Week 5 of football, guys.
Man, exciting. It's here.
How fast does it just fly by? It feels like this every year.
It's like it takes forever to get to Friday night, and then it's like it goes like that.
And you've got some teams starting district play this week, so you basically break the season into 3 different seasons, and so most teams are coming out of this first one, and you're starting to see some identities. You've got some schools that are still needing to, truly find where they're going to be able to fit in with all their offensive, defensive, say struggles or opportunities. Right. But I'm excited to get some of these district matches started.
Yeah, we'll start with our MVPs. Defensive MVP last week, Landon Boozy Johnson out of Atlanta High School. Landon had 14 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, a pass deflection, and a forced fumble.
Showed out.
Yeah, and big game. And then Cam Reitner, which we had a lot in fairness. We had a lot of kids that had great weeks. We could start with Jalen White, 14 and 19, 391 total yards, 4 TDs out there in DeKalb. Then you can switch over, and you could even look at David Potter, 414 yards. That doesn't even include his 40 rushing yards, 4 TDs. But after a lot of thought and consideration, Cam Reitner really deserved this offensive MVP award.
Man, his plays came at big times in the game, and in a huge matchup. I think that had to weigh a little bit into it. But man, you got a lot of people around the area showing out, and that's good for football.
Cam Reitner, he did it in multiple ways, man. He had the game-winning interception, threw the game-winning 2-point conversion, caught 2 touchdown passes, caught 7 passes, like 185 yards. Man, just what a game
and
for Cam.
some good punts. We call them the Swiss
I
Army
forgot
knife.
about that.
I mean,
he
he's
does punt, doesn't
he?
he? I don't know if I've seen him punt this year.
Yeah,
but
yeah. We had 2 the other night a couple of times, and he turned the field over, and you don't really notice a punch like the rest of the kicking game is. You don't really notice it unless it's bad, and when they can turn over the field and keep a high-powered offense like Fayetteville, on their side of the field, it really helps.
Yeah, well, I guess while we're on that game, that was probably the most – there's one game, and I think it's just because I'm from Longview, that I don't think, unless it happens for a state championship for Longview, I don't know that it'll ever be topped. All right, so, I was there when Longview won the state championship. Great moment. I was there the game after when North Shore had the Hail Mary. Wasn't a fan of either school, so it wasn't it didn't resonate with me. But in 2001 – Joel Armstrong threw a pass to Willie Andrews against Highland Park, I believe, tipped by a Highland Park defender. Willie Andrews catches it 97 yards TD to the house, walk-off, game winner. It was the most lit environment ever. We were off that week, and I was there watching my dudes. It was amazing.
The one you're talking about, the Longview game, was that the one that was after? I think I'd been at the Pleasant Grove game that day.
Longview? So Pleasant Grove, I think, played that Friday morning. Because it was 2018. That was the first time I'd ever seen Pleasant Grove play football.
Okay.
They played the next day.
Okay.
And they would have been right before the Duncanville and North Shore showdown.
Yeah.
Which looks like that may happen again.
Mm.
This will be, year 5 or 6 of that?
Yeah. You got 2 powerhouses for sure.
Going back to this Texas High game, I have in my notes down here, it's the first time I got to be a fan Friday night. I was in Longview watching the Ruston game. I'm going back and forth between all the games. They were all close. Liberty Ilo was close, PG and Texas High. And so I went and sat in my truck, which is right beside the scoreboard. So I'm still kind of watching the Longview game, but I have all 3 games on. And in my head, I was just man, I cannot believe we've came this far.
Yeah.
That we can have 3 games going at once.
And I kept seeing people posting deals that were, had 3. Matt Graves, I know, was posting
his was cool.
Several others that I saw posting it. People with 2 phones and a TV watching all 3 games, and you're always on the other side of it, so you don't get to see it, and so are we, Jay. But man, you realize what people are missing, and let me tell you something. If you mess up, or if your stream goes down for 2 or 3 seconds, you realize just how many people are counting on you, right?
Yeah, no, that's no joke. But my phone number is somewhere online, and I've never been able to figure out where is my phone number. It's not on our website. If you Google my name, my phone number doesn't come up. My phone number is somewhere.
It's 903. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We posted it on Facebook. If you.
Yeah. So people are getting my phone number every Friday at 7:30. My phone starts ringing, no matter what. So it's like it's connected somewhere around here where people evidently it's easy to find. It's always an old lady or an old man. I can't figure it out to get the game going. At this point, I'm like, if y'all can't figure it out, it is what it is. I don't even answer. But I started getting text messages for the first time ever. And it was these Arkansas fans.
Oh, my.
I mean, giving me the business, talking shit to me. Like, you don't know what you're talking about, blah, 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 blah. And evidently, I guess, I don't even remember what Ben said, but Ben said something up here, and they used it in the locker room, supposedly, as, like, bullet board material. Like, what are they doing watching? Like, how worried are y'all? Anyway, so I had, like, 9 different people text me, and I mean talking shit to me. And I didn't respond because I pulled it up, like, what are they talking about? And they were down 28-7. I'm like, oh, my God. Yeah. I did not see that. The second it went final, keyboard warrior,
Crickets.
Here I come. Boy, I started talking.
Crickets on
I
the other
responded
side.
to every single one of you jokers. And I know one of y'all are watching right now. You got to be. Respond. I mean, I went in on them.
I had people in the stands. I know a bunch of people from Fayetteville, and I had people in the stands calling me saying, "Man, I thought Texas football was good," and whatever, and shooting me texts or whatever. And I don't respond during a game, and or to that. And even during a Razorback game, if someone texts me and says, "What?" That's the kiss of death when people start talking about your team and whatever. So,
well, I know we had one of our camera operators at the Kilgore PG game had the T-High game on.
You can tell.
And so we were keeping up with it, and I mean it was the first half we were all like, okay, we're gonna have to have a little halftime, little presentation on getting this one turned around, and
little seance
they
or
started
something.
moving. They started moving the needle, and they would pop their head in, and they're coming back, and great ending to that game.
Man, I'm telling you.
Yeah, that was an excellent game. That was you dubbed it an instant classic, so we're gonna keep it at that. And I just want to say to these Arkansas fans who. Y'all came and barely squeaked out a win. Well, like, let me remind you, sir or ma'am, that they have 955 more students than Texas High. So let me tell you what would actually happen if you had to square up against Duncanville, DeSoto, North Shore, teams that are your size, schools that are actually your size. You would leave that stadium with no teeth.
Yeah, I mean,
your face mask would be bent in, your teeth would be kicked out. You thought Texas High was a problem. Oh my God! Play Duncanville. Play North Shore.
The difference in 6A and 5A is
you
like
can't. It's
college.
It's not even comparable.
It's not comparable.
It's like a Division III school playing a true Division I powerhouse.
Fayetteville had 81 cheerleaders.
81 cheerleaders, what they had. Oh my God! How do you even know that?
What do you think he was watching? Did we have that on the street?
But that's just nuts. And, like, for them to trash talk like they were, like, first off, Texas High is the best 5A Division II teams. There are 3 divisions above them.
Yeah.
That you would be in. You would be playing against those same teams. Mm-hmm. Duncanville, DeSoto, North Shore. Y'all do not want those problems. Y'all's little 15-game win streak or whatever it was, your state championship streak, means nothing in 6A football in Texas. So y'all have my number. You can get with me if you got a problem with that.
Great environment Friday night. They put on.
What do you mean? And another thing, you wouldn't let Billy do his blow up tunnel.
Nope.
Did you at least do the smoke?
I did the smoke. No little fireworks for me or anything. They kept, but I snuck my train horn in and we blew that a lot.
Well,
but
wanted to get a bigger air tank and just. When they come here and just point it towards their stands.
Sign me up. I'm always looking for.
I'm tired of Texas High taking the high road. I want them to take the low road when they come to town and do them like they did us.
The more people that heard about that and several other things that they did about not comping, coaches' wives and things like that, just was kind of unheard of, and everybody's like. Well, you just remember that next year. Remember that next year.
Well, that's the thing. Texas High is going to comp their wives. I know. They do. It makes me mad sometimes. We'll go do a stream somewhere, and they'll put us in the stands just to be not nice, and Then they come here, let's give them our stream. How about no? How about we don't do any of that? How about we make them set up in the stands? You know, let's do that.
I'll tell you what, it's I almost now, Jeremy and I kind of like to be in the stands. We kind of like to be
don't say that out
people.
loud. Hey, I see Ben Long's watching. Ben, I'd appreciate it if you put my logo on some of your graphics. They look good.
He's got
and
some
I am
good
contributing
graphics.
like 50% to the graphics.
He's got
with
some
photos.
He's got some good graphics, man.
So if you're going to keep using them, help your boy out. You know, we can use all the advertising we can get. Some final scores from last week. DeKalb won big over Harmony 44-20. Hooks lost to Winsboro 33-47. Queen City lost to Heartbreaker to, I believe, White Oak 34-35. They have Hooks and Queen City are playing this week. Jefferson won big 40-15. Atlanta won 60-17. And DeKalb, I don't know what was going on with these stats, but evidently they were just throwing long ball after long ball. And Caden Wary had 256 all-purpose yards. And Madison, 6 receptions for 74 yards and a touchdown. I do want to point out, I've been talking trash about them for weeks, and guess who lost again?
Who?
Guess. Who I talk trash about all the time. No respect for that area of football or anything, Wimberley.
Oh, yeah.
And guess what? They're still ranked number 6. They lost to Fredericksburg, the wine city outside of Austin. They're going to lose to Lampasas this week. They're going to be 2-3, and somehow they're still going to be ranked in the top 10 because they'll probably play for the state championship. And they're going to get beat by 95 points. I used to say 60. Now it's going to be 90. If they play Carthage, Gilmer, or Pleasant Grove, they're going to get beat by about 90. It's an absolute joke. And
they're not in top 10 with Max Preps, though.
Max Preps keeps it real. But Dave Campbell's is like, well, we can't have somebody make a state and not be ranked. So we got to keep them in there somehow. They suck.
That's the only reason why I think they're still ranked there.
Max Preps, they rank based off of who you've played and some kind of point system.
It's like something about your
strength of
schedule. Yeah, so they have Texas High rank 1 on there, and what it would take for Dave Campbell's to move Texas High to number 1, and at this point I do believe they're number 1, and they deserve to be number 1 with what they just went through the last 4 weeks. And they are keep in mind, you talk about media bias. Dave Campbell's is located in DFW. Okay? Their entire business model is not too unsimilar from ours, but their entire business model, keep in mind they cover the entire state. If South Oak Cliff decides, hey, we're not messing with Dave Campbell's no more because they put Texas High above us, that's a problem. If Texas High decides, hey, we're not messing with Dave Campbell's no more, it's not really a problem.
Right.
Because they're all the way out here in the middle of nowhere.
You're right.
So, and guess who else they're not going to take out of the top 2 because they don't want to deal with the fan base. Worst fan base in the entire state is P&G, in my opinion. Now, they are the best fan base if you're a fan of P&G. But if you're not a fan of P&G, they're the worst fan base. I've had a conversation with someone not too long ago that was demanding we do something, and he was from P&G, and then started making fun of us because they were like, dude, we don't cover that area, and then just started making fun of us. These P&G fans are wild, but they would both have to lose 2 or 3 times for them to move Texas High above them. But doesn't matter because Texas High is going to play one of them in week 2 or 3 and the other one in week 4, assuming P&G even makes it there. I'm not sold they're going to win their district. So we'll see. Before we get into other these games, I have in my notes somewhere, I guess I thought Buddy would be here, but Hooks, DeKalb, Dangerfield, how are they matching up in that particular district? You have Dangerfield going to Redwater tomorrow night. Both of them are looking for their first win on the season, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, you never
that we're sitting here talking about a powerhouse like Dangerfield, and the talent I would assume is there.
The talent's there. The talent's there. I think offensively, they're pretty sound offensively. Defense, I think will get there. But I think that district, you're not going to have anybody run away in that district, in my opinion. So I think you're going to have a lot of, 500 teams, that are going to be making the playoffs this year.
So are they giving up a bunch of points this year? Yeah.
Well,
typically that's not a Dangerfield team giving up a bunch of points.
They started the last week's game. They started with a 15 or whatever the penalty is for delay of game on a kickoff to start the game, Billy. To start the game. Okay, and then they give up 25 yards in penalties the very first possession. on defense.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know. I know that coach down there is a good coach. It's just I don't know what's going on. I only saw him play against Pleasant Grove, which probably isn't a fair comparison, but they lose to Gladewater right out of the gate in a close one. Then they go to Tatum, and I think they might have scored late a couple times, but it was described to me as they're going for the home run ball on every play. And I just don't know.
Can't be one-dimensional.
Yeah,
sure.
and then, Redwater's had some close games. I think I have down here in my notes. And it's just like, what if Redwater were to beat Dangerfield Friday night? Like, legitimate question. So, Redwater has played Bullard, Brandhill, I think that's the Fort Worth team. Or no, Bullard Brandhill, I'm sorry. Winsboro, Pewitt, and New Diana. Which, surprisingly, New Diana is really good.
And, New Diana put it on them.
I never thought I'd be able to say New Diana's good at football.
I think for Redwater, what they're missing right now is just their offensive being able to score at will. Their efficiency on offense is not there. They're definitely having to either turn the ball over on downs or punting it quite often.
And Dangerfield, Gladewater, Tatum, PG, Center, which, if I'm not mistaken, all those schools except for maybe Tatum are larger than them. Does that sound right? I'm struggling on Tatum because they might be small school 3A.
Yeah, Tatum's a little bit smaller.
So they would be the same size as them then, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, man, it's just odd, like really odd. Like, I never thought we would be sitting here, Redwater, Dangerfield, both 0-4. Dangerfield's coming to Redwater.
Going into week 5.
If Redwater were to happen to pull this off, that would be statewide news.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is the biggest 0-4 game in the state this week, for sure.
For Dangerfield to ever be in the conversation of being 0-5, that's
I don't know what happens if Dangerfield goes 0-5, because then, this is their first district game, but they were like, when we heard Dangerfield's moving to that district, they own that district from now on. That was, whether you were joking or not, everybody said it. And I don't know. Like, I just can't fathom why they would be 0-4 without something crazy we don't know about happening. But anyway, let's get back on track here. Game of the week. I think Ben dubbed this PG Sunnyville game of the week, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have the notes in front of me.
He did.
Okay, so Sunnyville, tell me about them, Jay. I'm sure you did all the research.
Well, they're 2-2. They're both Pleasant Grove and Sunnyville are both coming off losses, so there's going to be a little blood in the water for both of them to try to get this win. It's interesting to note that they did get beat by Van, who's in the district of PG. So this is going to be one of the first games where Pleasant Grove's really going to be able to possibly see where they are. And so, if they can play Sunnyville a little bit stronger than Van, then you got to give the edge to PG. But Sunnyville, they're scoring 36 points a game, and they're I think they're giving up right at 12. So they've got good fundamentals, but their quarterback's a sophomore, and he has not faced a defensive line like he's going to be walking into.
I watched Pleasant Grove early, and I thought, man, this doesn't look like Pleasant Grove that I know, a Josh Gibson team, and just some of the mistakes that they were making as well. Not athlete wise, but some of the mistakes that they were making. And I got a chance to go back and see some of the game the other night, and I thought, okay, they're starting to click, starting to hit stride, and you're going into not a district that you can just run through and beat everybody, but like a Texas High. You can get your stride during your district, but I was skeptical about PG early, just thinking, man, I just don't know that they can get there. And what I saw the other night is hey, now they're going to start getting that confidence. And two, I was walking into church with Coach Gibson Sunday morning, and we talked for about 5 minutes. And he was he was excited. He was telling me about Halter dropping dimes. He was telling me about Browning catching and running. He was telling me about his offense versus what he called the best secondary, most physical secondary that he had faced in his time, and just seeing that, he was kind of rejuvenated, so I look for Pleasant Grove now to get that big C, to get that confidence back, and start with a win against Sunnyville.
Yeah, Pleasant Grove. I'm gonna be honest. I was in Longview, and I kind of contemplated maybe going over there at halftime. But I hadn't been to a Longview game in 2 years, so I was like, man, I need to be over here. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even look up the score till it was second half. I couldn't believe it.
Well, and I also listened to a couple of radio shows this week, and they were talking about, I don't know how Pleasant Grove lost, that they were the better team, that they dominated that game.
If you from a fan standpoint, it was a surprise for Pleasant Grove to not pull it out in double overtime. And you've got to go back to. And I hope the team can go back to this. Mm-hmm. There were a couple opportunities where they could have put that foot on the neck, and they didn't. Mm-hmm. There was one time where there was a punt, the snap over the punter. Mm-hmm. Pleasant Grove got it, first and goal, and all they got was a field goal. Okay. And it would have been a 14-point game at that time, and so that's a big. You start getting into second half and third,
start forcing
third
them
quarter, and you're two touchdowns behind. That starts playing some mind games. Maybe some coaches make some different calls, and but I will say that them moving to the spread, and they've got a new name that started popping up this game in Camden Harris.
Is that a receiver?
He's a receiver. He can get up vertical 30-plus inches, and so if you've got Camden on one side, Spencer Browning on the other, you're going to have Roland Ritchie in there. You're going to be able to put Lance Jackson in there on the slot at times. I still think that there's going to be some opportunities for a couple other names to start getting thrown at by Jarrett, and it's going to come down to the line play. Are they going to be able to give Jarrett that extra second and a half to be able to look at that second read, third read, and I'd like to see that running game start getting it outside a little bit quicker. But you saw a lot of good things by Pleasant Grove and playing a very large 5A Kilgore team. You're not happy with the results, but you're happy with where you are from week one, for sure.
I told a lot of people, I said, I would have been happy with a loss at Fayetteville just because it was such a great game and because I felt like that we played really good. So you can be nobody likes a loss, but something especially out of district like that or something. And I've said it all along. I said it all last week. Is Kilgore was always that team that Texas High scheduled every year in pre-district to get them ready. They scheduled them the week before they started district because Coach Norton and Coach Stanford, when he came, they felt like they got them ready because they were so physical, and it was usually a tight game.
And Kilgore wasn't happy coming off the loss from Gilmer, so they were giving PG all they wanted.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think PG's got some good strides. Saw a lot of growth last week, and
that's the word that I've heard several times.
And so it'll be interesting to see because I hope that some of the larger teams down the road, the Gilmers, the Carthage, I hope they look at film the first 4 weeks. Because if they do that, that's not going to be the team that I think that they'll face later on.
The coaching job done over the last 4 weeks is unbelievable. Fuller called me and was like, man, have they really switched to the spread? I'm like, well, yeah, they switched to the spread. You see it on film. It's like, I just can't believe it, And so for them to come in and play, I mean, listen, Jared Halter threw for 280 yards. Spencer Browning caught 6 passes for like 185 yards and a couple touchdowns. If you'd have told me all that after they left Atlanta after week 1, I'm like, you're crazy.
Right.
There's no way that's going to happen. And then after the Paris game, absolutely no way that's going to happen. So to come from there to where they're at now.
And you think about it, I mean, how long has Browning been the guy at receiver? I mean, this is the first year. How long has Jarrett? I mean, Jarrett's coming back off of 2 years away or whatever. I mean, now you're starting to see, okay, it takes a little bit. It's not just some summer workouts that get you back in the swing of things. You got to get your bell rung a few times. And, no, I just think that they're set to make another run.
Yeah, the question's always been, or not always, but so far the season's been about the offense. Hopefully those questions have been answered, especially if they turn around and do it right against Sunnyville. But this defense is next level elite. I know they gave up some points against Kilgore. Kilgore's gonna score.
Right. Well, once again, I'm gonna bring up that Sunnyvale's got a sophomore quarterback, and he has not faced the defense, especially a front like this. He does have 14 touchdown passes though, so I mean they're definitely going to try to challenge the secondary PG.
They're licking their chops, though.
But I think that the secondary is definitely going to be ready, and he's not going to have as much time.
And
there's going to be some first read throws all night long by
Well,
Sunnyvale.
and with a defensive front like that, your secondary can play tighter, press coverage or something like that. Don't have to guard them for cover them for too long. So,
but Sunnyvale's got 6 receivers with touchdown passes, touchdown passes, receptions, and they got a kicker who's 19 for 19, and 2 for 3 on field goals with a 48-yarder. So, they've got some athletes. I think
where is Sunnyvale?
It's just past, I think, Sulphur Springs in Dallas, maybe a little bit southeast of Dallas. I know that there's you can go back on the getting into the baseball world. There was a time where Sunnyvale wanted to face PG, and they were wrong then.
Yeah,
and I think that they're going to be wrong this week too.
I think they were the We Want PG team.
They were.
The year they won state.
Oh, wow.
That they turns out they did not want PG.
Yeah,
but they want them again, I guess. Switching over to Hughes Springs at DeKalb. So DeKalb's wins 48-20 over Mineola, 22-32 win over Pittsburgh, a loss to Jefferson, 30-36 loss, and then a win over Harmony, 20-44. But Hughes Springs, I'm assuming for the first time in an awful long time, are 3-1. But they lost to Paris Chisholm 14-21. And then,
tight one.
We got an Ore City win. Got a real big Lyndon Kildare win, who's on like their 5th coach in a month or something.
That's tough.
And then a 1-point win over Paul Pewitt. And I just can't see a scenario where DeKalb doesn't win this one really big.
And that's my thoughts. Offensively, I think they're 1 point off of each other as far as how many points they've scored so far this season. But defensively, Hughes Springs is giving up fewer points than DeKalb. But I just don't think that they've played the same caliber players or same caliber teams. I've got DeKalb edging this one out in the last quarter.
I think DeKalb will run away with it.
I think it's going to be over pretty quick, I would assume. And let me tell y'all, Dangerfield better hope. Frank Gallagher somewhere better pray that Hughes Springs doesn't win this game. Because if they do, he's going to have to go into hiding. if Dangerfield happens to be 0-5 and Hughes Springs is 4-1, Frank is going to have to move out of that area or go into hiding somewhere because it's going to be wild for him as much trash as he talks to everybody. Liberty Islo.
Yeah.
Won a tight one against Bullard.
It looked like at one time they were behind.
They were down.
Yeah, that's what I had turned it on, and then when our game was over, I turned it back on and saw that they had won. I went, okay, that's just the hurdles that you face. Learning about your team and can you come back? Can you be punched in the mouth? Those kind of things.
Arian Taylor stepped up big.
They're starting to answer those questions.
Yeah, 24 carries, 140 yards. You kind of just always assume, like Tripp must have had a night. And with Arian Taylor, I've seen the paper post a couple posts about him as well. One of them, I can't remember what the headline was, but it was a big one, So
you can't go far if you're one-dimensional, and
right.
so seeing that they've got a few things that they're able to do, you kind of gotta start nodding their way.
Yeah, Liberty Islo is going to be off this week. They will have Tatum.
It's a big
Next
game.
week. District starts.
At LE, correct?
At LE, They'll have Atlanta at LE, and then they'll have Jefferson at LE. And I believe that's when the baseball team gets their state championship rings.
The Jefferson game?
The Jefferson
That'd
game.
be fun.
So that'll be a fun night for everybody. Glenn Yalla, I'm glad Jay didn't bring this up. PG's kicker's 10 for 10 on PATs and 1 for 1 on field goals.
Yeah, he hit a big field goal in this past game against Kilgore, and it's when you have in his. He hasn't spent much time on the football field either. And so, I expect big things out of him. And he proved he could handle a little pressure this week coming in and kicking the field goal. And that actually gave Pleasant Grove, I believe that was the first time that they were up by 2 scores against Kilgore. But no,
Having a
he's
kicker,
got a
especially at that
promising
level,
Man.
is not always doesn't always happen, you know. But hey, let's switch to Texas High real quick. Instant classic. We already talked about it. But man, here comes that lull in the schedule that everybody's a little bit worried about because the last, for sure, 2 years, you know, I lost to Pine Tree, and then before that, I lost to someone else a year before that. White House,
I believe.
Yeah, like teams you just weren't expecting to be able to compete with you. And we know this team's a lot more talented than those other teams, but it's not as exciting going from playing in Fayetteville, touring the University of Arkansas, warming up on their field.
Or Liberty Christian versus Witten and his sons. And
now you got perennial non-powerhouse Hallsville coming to town.
I'll tell you what.
Saying it nicely.
You know, the good part about that is it's homecoming, so you're able. You know, as a coach, you're like, hey, don't think about all these other things. Think about your opponent, whatever. And now it's like, you know, and now I haven't heard Coach Stanford or any of the coaches talk about this, but it's like, hey, don't focus on our opponent. Let's just focus on all this other stuff we have and focus on ourselves because Hallsville's not that good. And I want to say a prayer for their quarterback. I don't know if he's back or whatever, but he was down for about 20 minutes in their game, and so I think they'll have a backup quarterback against us as well. But you know, these are a lot of games that Texas High should win going away. But it's, you know, you're still talking about everybody's Super Bowl, and you're still talking about, you know, I don't think this is one that could, even if they play their best game, but they were pretty bad a few years back when they took it down to the wire against us at our house. So you never, I mean, that ball bounces crazy ways at football, and you never know. But you're right, it should be a lull in the schedule, but gives you a chance to do some things, gives you a chance to work out some things that you got, gives you a chance to try some new things, gives you a chance to get some other guys in and get ready for that stretch run that you hopefully will have after district.
Well, Hallsville's been giving up 27 points a game, and I think that average is fixing to move up just a little bit because Texas High's coming in with scoring 48 a game, I believe. That's salty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the thing with Jerry, I don't know that Jerry just runs it up. Like, he ain't going to put a 60 spot on anybody.
No, not at all.
I mean, he's, you know, you go back, 6 years? You know,
he does.
Playing those DFW teams.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
you know, like all coaches have been on the other end of that.
That's right.
Whether they want to admit it or not, all of them have been on the other end of it. So,
That's right. And you get into district, and you're going to play those guys next year, and there's going to be a point where they're better than you, and they're, you know, and you don't want, you know.
Hallsville's never going to be better than Texas High. Now, they may get lucky and win one out of every 30 years.
Yeah.
I'm not prepared to say that.
But, you know, typically what Coach Stanford will do, and who knows, this may be a tight game. You know, I'm not trying to say that, but if you get to halftime and you're up a lot, typically Coach Stanford, they'll have a series that they'll come out in the second half with the starters, and then they'll start getting a bunch of people in. But man, I'm telling you, it doesn't drop off drastically when they start putting in the second running back or the third running back. I mean, our third running back will start for every team. Every team that we've played already, Ahmad Moore starts for every team. And so you have those guys that man, it's, you know, I don't want to put a whole lot of stock in this, but I've never seen a Texas High team like this. I got down in the locker room right when Coach Stanford was coming in at halftime, and he gathers them all up. I don't know if he typically gathers them up right away, but he gathers them all up. He tells them, he gives them the what for. He tells them where they are, what's happened, what they can do. You know, goes through the full deal about, man, you've been punched in your mouth. You know, here's what we can do. And typically 35-19, I believe, was the score at half. Typically, what would have happened was when they, you know, they'll have about 10 different kinds of position coaches that they'll all scatter and go to, and you'll start hearing some mumbling. I've been in a lot of the locker rooms. You'll start hearing some mumblings. You'll start hearing some people, if he'd get me the ball, or if they would help me over the top, or things that. And I heard about 5 guys, and it was really about 5 guys. Some of them weren't seniors, and hearing them, the things that they were saying, like, "Hey, we're going to come back. We were close. We're going to build to get." All of these things. It made the hair on my arms stand up, because it was a locker room that was calm. It wasn't Coach Stanford didn't he wasn't raising his voice. He was just giving them and then they responded to it, and Jack, we went out at halftime and put a 21 spot on them like that, and I thought, I've been saying this team was special, but I didn't really know the degree.
That's the kind of game that gives you a lot of confidence. And I have this in my notes, and I wanted to ask you live, and we hadn't talked about this. Is that Jerry's signature win?
Man, I'll tell you, I thought the signature win until then was the Lufkin game that we went on the road to Lufkin.
Okay.
We were number 4 in our district.
I forgot about
they
that.
Were number,
that was a big one.
They were number 5 in the state.
I'll admit it now. I didn't go to that game because I didn't think they had a chance to win.
Yeah.
I picked a local game that was not near as good. And I remember because you sent me that video, and what was it? They had a flag, illegal man downfield. That was the illegal man downfield game.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that was great.
I remember that call. Yes.
I have that saved on my desktop, right in that office over there. It's saved on my desktop.
Yeah.
Legal man downfield. Is there legal man downfield?
Well, they didn't call it for about 30 seconds, so I just kept saying it.
And Norton was the superintendent, and they hugged right. Yeah, I remember that. Yes.
Yeah,
that was one of the games where I really
I think
felt bad about not being
that
there.
was a signature win until now. I think this was a completely different game. I think because that time it was just a shocker to win. So that's why that was a signature win. This was 2 powerhouses going at. We weren't a powerhouse then. You know what I'm saying? And this was 2 powerhouses going. This was 2 separate states. This was, I mean, you can't imagine. I'm out there getting my, taking all my stuff out before the game and everything, and I'm having to weave through Channel 7, Channel 11, Channel this, Channel that, all doing live from the game before the game started. Max Prep, this, that. There was a ton of media there, and so this was a game that not only was a huge build-up before, but it lived up to the hype. And to answer your question, yes, I think this is a
how
signature win.
much pressure do you think that there was on? Because if I was a player on that team, I would have felt some, because they were representing more than Texas High.
Man,
they were representing the state of Texas.
There is no
it
question.
Was built up.
There was no question. All of our kids, they have great student section, by the way, and they showed up early. Texas High has got really good student section, but they've got a really good one too, and they showed up early, and they gave everybody hell. They gave me hell. They gave the coaches hell. I mean, they gave the band. I mean, anybody that got near them that would listen to them. And so I was in the locker room as Texas High was coming into the locker room before the game. And I thought there had just been a scuffle, a fight on the field between us and them, the way we came in, and we were so jacked up, and they were all talking about, they don't want, all this stuff or whatever. And even the coaches were coming in saying, man, they don't want to do that or whatever. Well, we had gone in front of the student section, and I think we were giving them Texas, and they were chatting Arkansas or whatever. And
I don't know how they could still be rooting for Arkansas at this point.
And it was going back. No, I mean, it was just the state. But that's the only thing that.
So So Texas does represent.
Well, I mean,
University of Texas represents Texas. Billy Lavender just said it. He just said it, and he threw a hook 'em horn.
I did.
I want you to
I
cut
was
that
throwing
out.
the hook 'em horn.
No, it's too late now. I don't got him up. I want you to cut that for me and send it to me.
But
What were they doing again?
they were.
No, they ain't. Were they?
But anyway, so we come in like that, and so it was a Arkansas versus Texas. I mean, there was no doubt that both teams felt the weight of representing their state, and it lived up to the hype. It was, there was no doubt in my mind we were going for 2 if we scored. I can't believe.
I think if that's a playoff game, he probably doesn't go for 2.
Oh,
I think that was a long game. I mean, the numbers say don't go for it.
I don't
But
know.
that game really didn't matter per se.
On the road with 5.5 hour drive, and
That's what I mean. I think all that led to even his post game interview. Well, I don't know, Billy. It's late. We're ready to get out of here.
Yeah.
Like, I really think if that game's to go to the state championship, I bet you he kicks it. He knows the kicker's not going to miss.
Yeah.
So
and I talked to him. He said we had made our mind up before we ever got the ball back that we were going for 2 when we scored. He said he didn't say if we scored. He said we were going for 2 when we scored.
All right,
and
so
I was like,
hold that thought.
Man.
I want to go back to Lufkin real quick.
'Kay.
Something came in my mind. Y'all were talking. I'll forget it if I don't
Mm-hmm.
say it. When we used to do like recap videos every week and we would interview,
Mm-hmm.
the week of the Lufkin game, I remember you doing your interview
Mm-hmm.
and saying, hey, yeah, Lufkin's ranked with number 1 in the state. Or
they were number 5 in the state.
Okay, number 5 in the state or whatever, but we got a puncher's chance. Came out with the upset. I want to throw that out there. All right,
Yeah.
back to this. I don't know how a conversation so nobody's ever accused a high school player of having a great football IQ and us actually seeing it, not just saying it. Doesn't happen very often. Okay, there had to have been a conversation out of that personal or whatever the penalty or timeout was. Hey, don't run into the end zone. This game's over.
You would,
And then the T-high players actually chased him like they were trying to tackle
well,
him, but they weren't.
Here's what I think happened from talking to Chuck, who had talked to Coach, is Texas High. There was a penalty on Texas High,
A sideline penalty.
yeah.
Okay.
And we didn't know. I think we thought that they were going to get the ball down inside the 10, and the coaches talked and said, "Hey, we're gonna let them score. We're going to let them score," or whatever. But when they went back out and they spotted the ball, it was just a warning or something, and it was back at the 20 or 19 or whatever it was. And so there was kind of some miscommunication about whether they wanted to let them or whether they didn't. I think a few of the guys thought that, and a few of them not. I said on the air before it happened, I said our only chance is to let them score.
Yeah.
I mean that was our really only chance. I mean, but here's the deal. I would love to hear their guys asking Casey Dick, their coach, why did you not say, hey, get the first down and get down?
That's everything that I heard on my end is
Yeah.
that it was probably a call that allowed
Yeah.
the ending the way it is,
Yeah.
and that's that's football. I mean,
Yeah.
you get it. You get in there, the stress, the fans.
I mean, we still had 2 timeouts, and there was just over 2 minutes left. I mean, there was a chance, that they kick a field goal or something, but there would be a little time. Now we did block their extra point that came into play, and I do believe that the first 4 games we have either blocked a field goal or an extra point every game.
Wow.
Well, for the season, listen.
Shout out to Coach Greer. He's a special teams coach.
Potter named 5A Player of the Week. Built for it Tough Player of the Week for the state of Texas.
Pretty salty.
Big deal. Really big deal. If you'd have told me 2 years ago,
I remember you saying this.
everything that we're seeing right now was going to happen, I probably would have laughed. Like, I wasn't sold on it. Like, he looked the part, and his stats were like there, but he got, as a junior, a lot better.
But see, I knew back then. I was excited. Now, last thing I wanted to see at that time was Cody go down because Cody gave us a chance that year to
he
make
was
a
dual
run.
threat.
Yeah,
At the time,
yeah.
David J was not a dual threat quarterback.
Right.
In my opinion.
That's right. No, no question.
And I didn't know a lot about it, so I just knew Cody Reese could spin it. We saw that in that game at AT&T Stadium that they lost, but he made some great plays to keep them in it.
But see, I knew how hard of a worker he was.
Yeah.
And I knew that it would be that he would give whatever his ceiling is. I knew that he would give everything he had and have the opportunity to be a really, really good senior quarterback. Now, I didn't know that he was going to be really, really good
would
as
you
a
have
junior.
ever guessed he would have been this good as a
No.
senior 2 years ago?
No.
I don't think anybody could
No.
foresee this except for his dad did tell me.
Yeah.
He
No,
he told me, we like. All right, so we know he has a strong work ethic. I've had a conversation with Coach Stanford about this. I'm like, Coach, you don't typically see what happens here everywhere else. You never have a bad quarterback. Why is that? And I was like, what do you want me to? what do you want me to tell people? Like, because I get asked things like that. He's like, we have an actual quarterback coach.
Yeah.
Most places don't have just a quarterback
Clint
coach.
Toonan, he was pretty salty himself as a quarterback.
So, I mean, and on top of that, Potter's got a guy that helps him study film.
Mm-hmm.
He travels to see different coaches. Mm-hmm. I'm to the point now, and I never thought I would say this. Like, I thought he would play college football, but I think he's going to be a Division I football player as a quarterback, which is hard to do.
Man, it's so hard to do, and so many things have to happen. You say luck, but not luck. But so many things have to happen, and a team needs to need somebody like him at that at that position at that time. A lot. But for someone who has, I mean, there hadn't been any of this.
Right.
It's been straight
so
like that.
Sometimes you may not like the way it looks, but when you see a stat sheet at the end, I've always said this. I don't know why it is. You can go watch a game 2 years ago, and it may not have looked great, but then you get the stat sheet, and you're like, "Is this real?"
You go back and watch his games. Go back and watch his games, and watch how many times he's hitting people on the run.
Well, hey,
it's in the right spot. I mean, Knox Pilgreen makes a catch the other night that I don't think has gotten its due yet. It was an
we posted it yesterday.
Yeah.
Somehow slipped. Some of those slipped through the cracks. For
it
me.
was an unbelievable. Not only was it a huge time of the game, but it was a miss by David J. And
man, you think so?
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was arm. I feel like if you touch it's catchable.
Yeah. No. But it was a miss. I mean, he's hitting guys downfield 15, 20 yards on slants and stuff on stride, and it was a missed throw by him. You can ask him. You can ask his dad. You can ask his mom. She knows too. And she's probably watching, because she watches all of it. She'll critique you. She'll send me some texts after this.
I'm here for it. I get people I don't even know talk trash to me. I can take it from somebody I do know and respect.
No, she loves game day.
But
anyway, that was a great catch. So I don't want to skirt over that. But he is making throws downfield in clutch times. And here's the deal about David J. One is, you're never going to hear him talk about himself. He's a bad interview at the end of the game, because all he wants to do is talk about the coaching staff and the team. He's a little bit nervous. Hey, look, he's one of those guys that's going to get there by the end of the year.
I still remember the very first time I interviewed him. I didn't even post it.
Right.
I mean, it was just, it was bad. But he's good now.
But the second point behind that was I've never seen him nervous. I talk about, and I hate to use the correlation between him and Matt Jones at Arkansas, but it's like, hey, this 4th and 10, down 10 is the same play as it would be 4th and 10 up 28. I mean, he's got that demeanor that you want in a quarterback, and it's I hate to use the word, but it's special.
Well, most conversations around him are about his arm, and I mean,
that's right.
You got to remember about his legs too. I mean,
man,
he's already got 4 TD? No, two TDs on the ground and averaging 8 yards a carry.
And he's learned how to slide.
That's healthy.
I know the coaches like
healthy.
that. His dad doesn't want him sliding. His dad wants him, to get those extra yards.
It ain't that important. The next 6 weeks or whatever, I want to see some slide. Matter of fact, don't run at all. There's no point. But to go back to your correlation that he's throwing the ball downfield, stats show that as well. You have Cam Reitner averaging 21 yards a catch, Tredarian Ball averaging 26, Shavonte averaging 24. You have 3 players. So Cam Reitner 116 yards a game, Shavonte at 100, Tredarian Ball at 89. 12 total TDs between them, and so he's not Tom Bradying it and throwing dump passes, which was my thing I hated about Tom Brady. He rarely threw the ball downfield. It was a bunch of dump passes to manipulate the defense so somebody's wide open every play. That isn't what's happening here. He's throwing the ball downfield. And if you watch our highlights, now keep in mind, sometimes just because of the way the camera moves, he's going to be out of frame about the time the ball is released, which is more often than not. He's standing in there and throwing as he's getting hit.
I was going to say a couple of the highlights, if you catch it right at the end, he's getting hit because, man, it's a lot of play action. It's a lot of we've gone into a lot of running a pump. You know, those take a lot of time. And I want to give a shout out to people that don't typically get talked about, and that's the offensive line. And you got Chisholm, you got Ford, you got Nichols. These guys, and hey, they got beat up that first half. I asked Jeremy Harrell, former offensive line coach at Texas High, I said, what's going on? Why, these guys, David Potter could be handing it to Fayetteville. These guys are in our backfield. So he was telling me about the stunt that the linebackers were running and both of them firing and whatever, and a couple of things about the snap count, about whatever. He said, but the main point is we don't have our eyes. Second half, I never saw him on our quarterback. And I was like, man, and not only shout out to them, but shout out to coaching staff for making those adjustments or whatever. But man, offensive line is Jay. Was talking about offense and defensive line. I mean, that's where it starts. And they, we like all the stats, and there's not many stats on them.
We're considering for that adding a lineman cam, like paying somebody, and that's all they do is video this line. Because I mean, there's pancakes every single time they snap the ball.
But I'm sorry. Go back to your guys, Montgomery and Reitner and Ball. Ball, like Javari Johnson, he goes out he's out the whole second half until I think maybe the last drive, which was 2 plays. But he was out the whole deal. He had flu for a couple of weeks, and so he was cramping up pretty bad. And so T-Ball came to running back, so he wasn't playing receiver in the second half. And then they got to where they would bring Moore in, Ahmad, and he would be running back and give T-Ball back out. And we don't lose a beat.
Averaging 12 and a half yards a carry.
I'm telling you, he runs extremely hard, and he will make somebody miss inside a phone booth.
Man, let me tell you how efficient David J. is right now. He's accounted for 14 of the 24 touchdowns Texas High has scored this year. He has not thrown an interception in 90 pass attempts. And before last week, he was throwing 81% on the year. He's now at 68%. He threw 50% the other night. What did he throw? He threw 32 times, 414 yards. He's up to 330 yards a game passing. This offense has only fumbled the ball twice and has only lost one of those in 4 football games.
You got to win the turnover battle. We talk about it. I mean, it doesn't matter what grade or what division or what, if you're pro, college. I mean, all of these coaches talk about it. You got to win the turnover battle, because those are things that can make a lesser team win, or it just it'll always bite you in the foot. And Texas High's been good at holding on to the ball. And I don't want to shade our receivers, because I was a skeptic of our receivers, and here's why. People were like, "What's the weakness of Texas High?" This was before the year started, and I said, "Man, we've always had that receiver. We've had, T-Vay, and then it goes to Kobe Webster, KB, and then it goes to Ryan Sellers, and then it goes to my man TJ. I mean, we've always had that dude." And I was like, we don't have that dude this year. We just got a lot of good ones.
We've got a lot. Year, Shavonte was.
No.
I didn't know he was going to be this good.
No,
but he looked the part.
I knew, and he's young, and
but I
Cam's
get what
young,
you mean.
and T-Ball's young. They're all juniors.
Yeah.
But I thought, we're going to have good ones, but it's gonna be tough, because we don't have that guy that we can throw it up to. Dude, we got 3 of them that we can throw it up to, and then you got Powell that'll come on, and and another dual sport athlete, BP.
Knox so far this season has not had great stats. Okay, and it's not that matters. He's doing his job of block. He's only has 3 receptions. He's averaging 24 yards a reception, but Knox is going to come into play week 2, week 3, week 4 of playoffs. Knox is going to make a catch that wins them a game.
Here's what I said about Knox last week on his interviews. I said, this was your breakout game. I said, I don't even care, and I don't know what your stats were. I said, but you did everything you could for this team, this game. And, that was a huge catch at a huge time that he made. But his blocking, you watch, he's pancaking dudes. He's doing his job. And when you have a tight end that can stretch the field like Knox can, he's not needing to stretch the field right now.
Yeah.
But when you have someone that can do that and do his job, typically you'll have a big tight end that blocks, or you'll have a small tight end that can't block, but Knox can do both of them. So, man, it's really exciting right now.
We don't want to not talk about the defense. Isaiah Dowden, I think, is the, hands down the man on this defense. But there's a lot of talent over here, man. Alex Jones, I knew the name, but this move to linebacker.
He is all over the field. Yeah. He's become he's become what we knew Dowden was.
Yeah.
And you got two of them, and then you got a Shaylin Cooper. I mean,
I feel like he may have committed too early. Not to cut you off. I feel like he may have dubbed himself with that school.
Yeah.
He may have committed a little bit too early.
But also on the back end, I've dubbed the guy the playmaker, Roman White. He is constantly going up against the top guys on the other team. And we've played 3 of the 4 have had dudes out at wide receiver.
He's got, 2 interceptions, 3 pass breakup, and he's blocked 2 extra points.
But listen, so he was on a dude Friday night, and that guy had a couple of touchdown passes early. But if you go back and you watch those touchdowns, and one of them was on 4th and 5 and in the corner. But if you go back and you watch, he is freaking in his hip pocket.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just a perfect throw and a perfect catch. The kid's playing out of his mind, and he's playing again. I mean, he doesn't know he's playing against someone that's twice as good as him or whatever. He's a playmaker.
Listen,
that's exactly what he is.
I don't care what anyone says. That cornerback position, I've never really said in high school, because most high schools can't throw the ball. But if you're playing, it's like you are out there to get beat. Every rule is for you to get beat. And when you go to college, it gets worse. When you're in the NFL, it's terrible. You're out there to get beat. You're going to get got sometimes.
No,
it's
no
it's
question.
part of the game. You're just going to get got.
You got to be able to flush that play and go to the next. Because if you can't, you're going backwards.
But he's making a difference all over the place. And Cooper, he's got 30 tackles on the year. 2 QB pressures, tackle for loss. But when you get down here, I can't not mention Duncan McGee.
I was going to say. So here's the thing: you go back and you watch these games against Duncan McGee. When you look like Duncan, you're getting double teamed. Yeah. You're having fullbacks come and hit you. They're chipping. They're doing all kinds of things to stop you. But he's still,
from a defensive tackle position, 5 tackles for loss, which is, keep in mind, it ain't like he can turn his hips and squeeze through some guys. That ain't happening.
Yeah, right.
He's having to run through some guys, and he has 2 sacks. I had a conversation with the Division I coach in Oklahoma this week, not the University of Oklahoma, but we talked about Duncan McGee. And I'm like, man, I just don't understand how you've not sent someone down here yet. You're missing out. This is a kid that would possibly come here, and y'all haven't even visited the school yet and talked to him. What is going on? He's like, I tell you what, we're going to come down. Next time we're in that area, I promise you, we're going to stop by. And Duncan, man, I could see him playing at Georgia. I could see him playing at Alabama. He can put muscle on that frame as big as he is already. When's the last time you've seen a 6'6", 300-pound high school player, defensive tackle, that could move?
Not move like he does.
Normally, when you're 300 pounds in high school, you're just fat.
Let's
be honest.
You're right.
You're right.
You're right.
He's not.
And let me tell you one of the parts of that goes unnoticed, and that's Coach Hawk. Coach Hawkins gets as much out of those guys as he can, and he is a great coach. And you just go – he puts everything he has into it in the practice. I mean, he's passionate during a game, but he puts everything he has into it. And these guys, you see as a freshman, if they play as a freshman, which they usually don't, to a sophomore, they do nothing but get better. And that's a testament to coaching, because you don't just get better because you get bigger, but the difference techniques that they teach and all of that. I wanted to give a shout out to him, because you don't see that at a lot of schools.
Well, in just the total program that TISD has developed now, the facilities top notch, and you've got players who want to play for the program. They want to hang out at school. They want to go to the summer practices. They want to go to the practices that aren't even mandatory. And we're starting to see all of our local school districts sort of
buy into that.
Buying into that, and they're seeing the success that it's bringing. And for me, it's fun because, I mean, I had the opportunity to visit with some players this week, and it truly is that family feel. And, I mean, it's good to hear you say coming out of that halftime that, you know, it wasn't the, you know, you're not doing this and you're not, you know, and, I mean, you know, that's when you start seeing, wow, this team is a little bit different, and you start using that they're special.
I'm going to hold my prediction until after this Gilmer game with Pleasant Grove.
Okay.
If they continue to get better, it may be nuts. What if? I don't even want to jinx it.
Yeah,
I
don't say it.
I don't even want to jinx it.
I feel it, but don't say it.
I don't even want to jinx it.
That would be cool.
But excited to see what Liberty Ilo looks like next week against Tatum. That Atlanta Liberty Ilo game is going to be special. And then let's say LE wins that game. That Jefferson game is going to be insane. Something LE hasn't experienced in a long time. And that community deserves it, and it'll be a lot of fun.
But, you know, typically, and I touched on it earlier, typically you see a team that's been down and hadn't been in the big games and hadn't – if they have been in big games, like let's say against Pleasant Grove or whatever, they just get beat, you know, pretty handily. And I know they played them a couple of times close, but these players in a game last week, a lot of times you see a team like LE fold in that because they just hadn't been there recently, and they came and to me that made a statement. That made a statement that we're back. If you want to say that.
I know we're running out of time here, but I'm gonna go. I'll be doing media stuff at the Arkansas A&M game. Are you going?
Not unless someone invited me. But
no. You can ride with me. You know. Let's see if we're getting you a field pass or something. You can't be doing that fan stuff on the field.
Can't be.
They'll never let me. They'll never let me come there again. You have a number on your back, and if you do something like that, it is like
everybody knows.
It's big time frowned upon to go to a neutral site and cheer for a team right in front of them on national television.
I better stay off the field.
Yeah, I don't know. What I'm thinking about. It's just bad.
It's gonna be tough.
I can't believe you're not going.
I didn't say I'm not going.
Hey, it was pointed out to me last night that this is not a great place for Arkansas to be playing. They do not win in AT&T Stadium.
No, it's been tough.
I've been used to them not winning.
I've been to the
neither does Dallas.
Yeah, that's
God, dude, Dallas so bad.
Great call, Jay.
So this is the first year I don't have my season tickets with the Dallas. Well, no, it's second season. What a perfect time to drop them. Because let me tell y'all, when the Cowboys are winning, I can get $1,500. Their very first row in the end zone. I can get $1,500 a seat, both seats, when they're winning. But man, the second the hope is gone, you can't give those things away, and you literally can't give them away. It's tough.
But everybody's bought them for season tickets and stuff, so Jerry's still making all the money. It's just the season ticket holders can't sell them.
Yeah, well, I'm just gonna have to buy tickets when I want to go. I hadn't been in a while.
Yeah,
I've just it's a lot for me. I got a busy October though. I'll be at the Dallas 49ers game and then at the Chiefs 49ers game. Yeah, be a couple.
Are those both in San Fran?
In
nice.
San Fran. So
that's a great place to watch games.
I'll fly back.
You get to see the recipe pie and stuff.
Yeah. Let me think what I'm going to do that week. I am going to come back and do whatever high school games that week, and then I'm turning right around and doing a night game somewhere in the Bay Area.
Ooh.
I can't remember the college, but I'm going to be out of town next week, so y'all aren't going to have me here next week.
Okay.
I'm going to be up in Montana, and I think I got my games wrong when I was talking before.
Yeah.
So I got to figure out. I don't know when I thought I was going, but I thought they were playing West Yellowstone. Gardner was, they're not. So I got to figure out where they're going to be. I'm going to try to make it to one of those. So I'm going to try to see what a Wyoming or Montana high school football game looks like. I have an idea, judging by the size of the stands.
It's not going to be like Texas.
I feel like it might look like six-man football until where people line their cars up and all that. And
shine the
lights.
Watch from the back of their vehicle. Like I have a feeling that's what it's going to look like. Because up there, evidently, rodeo is the big high school sport, not football.
You don't think there'll be big blow-ups and fireworks and
none of that. None of that. But I think I'm gonna go out and depending on where they're at. I thought they were at home against West Yellowstone, and they're not. So I got to figure out what's going on with that. But I might be in Jackson Hole and do that whole deal. Me and my older brother are going up. It's my mid-season break, and
that'd be fun.
Seeing what we see. I thought it was going to be cooler as well. It's not going to be that cool. It's going to be like 60s.
It's going to be nice here for the next few days.
I know. I'll leave and it gets cool, and I'll be back and it'll be 90 degrees somehow. It always how it works. But yeah. So live for you this week. Hallsville at Texas High.
Homecoming.
Yep, I'm going to be there probably till halftime.
Okay.
Y'all are starting at 7 o'clock. Sunnyville at PG. 7 o'clock start time.
Is that that's the rest of the way for y'all, correct?
Correct.
7, and it's 7:30 the rest of the way for Texas High.
So those will be 2 good games. And then next week, I guess we'll be back. No, PG's off next week. Y'all aren't off to like the end of
Yeah,
October.
that's a while.
I wonder why he does that.
I don't know, but I like
It's hard
it.
to get a week off in district.
Yeah. I don't know.
All right, what's your prediction?
This week,
Yep.
I think Texas High by 31.
All right, I'm writing it down. What do you got PG by?
PG by 21.
Okay. All right, Arkansas A&M.
Arkansas by 4.
They're a 7.5-point underdog.
They went from 4 last night to 7.5 this morning.
Last night they were 7.5, is what I was told.
Don't be going off.
So
what
how are
you're
you?
told.
How are you going to give them by 4 anyway if they're a
Well, hold
4-point
on.
underdog?
You asked me who I thought was going to win and by how much. That's the betting line. That's trying to get the most. I'll
So you say have Arkansas by 4. How much are you willing to put on that? Because I'll take A&M minus 4.
If I was a betting man, the line is A&M by 4. By the way,
Oh, is it by 4?
But none. I'm not going to put any on it.
All right, so you're not willing to bet on your squad.
No, but I would. But Arkansas does have a night game next week against Tennessee, and I'll be there.
Man, I hate I'm not going to be at that game.
It's going to be a good one.
Who's going to be there for me? I think Tracy Rogers is going for
Cool.
game day, and he's shooting that one, if I'm not mistaken.
He does a great job. By the way.
Hey, I like that
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
I met him over the summer. I'd seen some of his stuff on Instagram. If y'all know we're talking about, Tracy Rogers, TR Photography.
Buddy of mine.
Is he a buddy here? But somebody else I met the other day, I was on a call with, I'll talk to you about it all.
Yeah.
But somebody else said they know, like, how do you know this guy? But anyway, Tracy has a daughter that's a cheerleader for Genoa, so he's mostly going to be at Genoa games because, wants to support his daughter.
Tracy was a distance runner at SAU.
Was he?
How
Okay.
did you know?
But he's a great photographer. So much so, I mean, we hire him to do stuff. He's shooting Arkansas games for us.
Good dude.
Yeah, he seems to be a good dude. He's going to retire from prison stuff here soon, I think. And he's going to get in photography full time.
Cool.
So good for him. Hopefully he does better than I do at it. Oh man, I never brought in $1 from it.
Well, for those that can make the PG game, I would definitely say come on out. There's going to be a few more bells and whistles that are added to the facility that are going to create a better experience for the fans. And,
Nice. That's what I'm all about.
Especially when there's points put on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some more excitement going on.
You know what? You need to come out. I think the week y'all are off, Gilmer is at PG.
Okay.
You
I'm in.
plan on coming. We're going to have the set
I'm
out
in.
for that game, Donovan. I'm letting you know ahead of time.
I'm in.
Pre-game show, yes.
Hey, I was going to say, come out tonight at Grimm Stadium at 6:30. They're introducing the homecoming court and all of that. Be some special stuff after that the Booster Club's putting on.
Are you in charge of the special stuff?
I am.
I think I can guess what it is then. Do you think the police get
It's
called
a
every now and then?
special
on you?
sauce, maybe.
Guys, we appreciate it.